Alright. Well, it's time for another one of these heist-related rants. I haven't done one in a while, because the last time I tried to do one, I got a meanie yelling at me in the comment section. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably part of the reason. But I guess another part of the reason is I just didn't really have any idea of what to do. Ever since I got into college, Heist multiplayer services just don't work at my college, so yeah, I couldn't really play if I wanted to. But yeah, when I went home for the semester, in between semesters and the holidays, I actually got to play Heist because I went home and it worked again for me. So it's like it's a nice experience. I don't have much experience with the new rules, but I felt like I should just talk about them and start a little discussion about what I think about them and see what other people think about them and what I think about their play styles and what I think about their strategy. The setups that they should be in. Alright, starting with the detective. The detective is, in my opinion, is just not all around a very good role. I don't like it. But it does have some, I guess, uses, though it could easily be replaced by the anarchist, which is just, in my opinion, like the same concept, but just far superior. But, I mean, I guess weaker roles, versions of roles exist for a reason, like the rookie and the ex-cop. But whatever. He always does the same thing every game. He claims late, he tells the truth, because he has no real reason to lie, because he just discredits himself without providing any more information than what was already had, or just making people falsely do shit, which doesn't help. And he claims late because he has no real reason to claim early. It's also a very easy BR claim because no one can verify whether or not he's actually telling the truth or not. It's just random shit as far as everyone else is concerned, but whatever. When it comes to setups and role interactions, he's extremely strong with the guard, in my opinion. While I haven't really played with both roles in practice, if you think about it, with guard you also have swapping roles such as anarchist and shoplifter. And those two roles can often confirm, roles to be innocent. Like if the shoplifter could call that they were guarded before the guard confirmed it, you've confirmed the guard and you've confirmed the shoplifter. And if the detective did not check both of those roles, then they can either confirm that neither of them are the bank robber by checking the detective by detecting himself against them, or by checking them and another player to confirm the third player. And in a 4-player setup, that would mean there were no bank robbers. So that'd be pretty cool. And it's especially fun with the wild card present, because if the wild card gets guarded, he can't switch, and if he isn't guarded, then you get to see that at least wild card is just very interesting with detective when it comes to what they actually saw and did and who they checked against. Details I'm not going to go too much into in this video. It's just something to think about. What happens if the detective checks the wild card? But the detective is also very weak with passive roles. Hostage, robber, and rookie, to be specific. If you think about it, the point of the detective is to actually cause counterclaims to happen, but when they're already happening, or if alright. Let me just roll back here. They're weak when checked against each other. Hostage against a hostage, you don't get anything, because they could both be robbers, they could both be innocent. Same thing with both robbers. You don't get any information as to whether either of them is actually a robber, and rookies and rookies. But where the fun happens is if a passive role is checked against an active role. So I mean, I guess in that situation, the detective would be a little more useful. But if in a setup with a lot of passive roles, such as beginner, then it's very, very. He's also a very interesting pair with the psychiatrist in particular, because if the detective says, "Hey, I actually checked the person that has been revealed by the psychiatrist, and I have checked them against this player," well, the detective could always be a bank robber, but under the detective's point of view, you've confirmed another person to be, to be real. And if you check, if you checked the revealed player against the psychiatrist themselves, then you have effectively like confirmed that the psychiatrist that you have checked is not lying, and it does absolutely nothing for you if you check it against yourself. So maybe don't do that. Same thing goes with the negotiator. If you check the negotiator and another player, obviously you don't yet know whether or not they're the negotiator because you don't get the role, but you do know that once they reveal, if they are still the original negotiator, well, even if you reveal in the middle of a match, they were originally a negotiator because detective goes before all swapping rolls. That they were at least at one point innocent, and that the other person you have checked against is either innocent or not innocent based on what you found. And they're also interesting with undercover cop. If you think about it, if you check an undercover cop in a setup that has both an undercover cop and a fall guy, and you check the undercover cop against a confirmed innocent, and they're acting like a fall guy, they're probably the undercover cop. If you check them against an innocent, and they're still acting like kind of like a bank robber, then they're the undercover cop, and so on. If you check them against a bank robber and they're both different, well, you've got a fun situation on your hands. The undercover cop, when it comes to bank robbers, is particularly strong against plants that like to claim ex-cop check player or shoplifter, because obviously if they're doing that strat against an innocent player and you check both them and the innocent player and their different alignments, then oops, you've caught the plant. And they're also particularly strong against certain attorney playstyles. For instance, attorneys that are more, I'm pretending to be the anarchist that swapped the plant. Now, obviously, it's not useful information if you, say, check the attorney against the plant and see that they're the same alignment and the attorney is claiming shoplifter. But if the attorney is claiming anarchist that has swapped the plant, in the, say, advanced setup, then what you have is, well, assuming you check the attorney against an innocent player, you have the discrepancy. Like, oh, wait a minute. Logically speaking, these two roles should be the same alignment, but they're not. There's something wrong. They're situationally strong against the fall guy. It depends on how the fall guy plays. I'm not going to go too much detail into that, but the fall guy theoretically should try to play aggressively in situations where the detective might have checked them against an innocent player, because if you try to act like nonchalant and the detective says, oh, hey, this person who's the fall guy and this other person who is an innocent are two different alignments, you don't just cast suspicion on yourself, you also cast suspicion on the other player. And you kind of want to control the way that you're casting suspicion on yourself to, cast suspicion on yourself. And if it's out of your control, then things could go in the bank robber favor, kind of like, oh no, this other person is acting retarded and I don't want them to, kind of, But other than that, I guess if you're the fall guy and the detective says that you're a different role than someone else, then I guess you could try to use that into your advantage. I guess it's just how you take that information. And if the Intimidator is playing the way that they should be, the Undercover Cop is absolutely useless against them, because the Intimidator is meant to counterclaim, and you don't gain any new information by saying that they're different roles from another player, except maybe that they're both not bank robbers. But whatever. Pretty much useless against Intimidator. But that doesn't really mean that Detective and Intimidator shouldn't exist in the same setup. That's not what I'm saying at all. In fact, they probably should be, because it actually gives the bank robbers a little more of a chance, and maybe something to claim, or maybe something to help them. And vanilla bank robber, it completely depends on what's available to claim. Passive roles, they're useless. Active roles, he's useful. I think you get the point with that. Next we can move on to the Snoop, which is the new bank robber role that can check two bottom cards. The ability to check 2 bottom cards is definitely to counter the fact that the X-Comp was originally the only role in the game that could check 2 bottom cards, which was very interesting and very much discouraged the X-Cop from checking a player, which, because shoplifter, plant. As for how they should play, claiming X-Cop and Rookie are obvious choices if they're available, if you just want an easy claim, and maybe if you see them, I guess. If you see X-Cop at the bottom, consider claiming the other role, assuming it's not a bank robber. Oh, hey, I'm playing. No. Because the logic with this one is that you don't really have anyone that can say, oh, well, that role's at the bottom because you saw the X-Comp. So you can claim that role and then pretend that the Snoop and the X-Cop are at the bottom, which would be interesting unless you have another role that can check the bottom, like a Rookie. I mean, I guess trying to put Snoop in beginner setup, I think. If you see Detective and X-Comp at the bottom, consider claiming X-Comp that has saw the double bank robber. Because if you do this and you have a bank robber buddy, they can do something to help reinforce your claim. In which case, you can try to force a no vote. Obviously, this has some risks involved, as people are usually uneasy about not voting. Obviously, if you're going to do this, the meta is that X-Cop that has saw both bank robbers should claim absolutely first. But it all depends on whether or not you have a buddy and whether or not they are smart. And if you see neither the anarchist nor the shoplifter and both are present in the game, claim X-Cop, checking player immediately after shoplifter. And if the shoplifter does not claim, they likely stole you or your partner's card. Go wild. You're probably not the bank robber anymore, because if you think about it, it is statistically unlikely that your card was not changed unless it's maybe a 6-person setup. With a 4-person setup, you should definitely do something, because, your alignment probably changed. Now, obviously, this does have some risks with it, because you don't know that you're definitely not the bank robber anymore, and if you go out and say, oh, hey, I'm, the bank robber, then everyone's going to say, well, we didn't swap with you, unless the anarchist really did, which that's a little less likely. If you claim that the X-Cop checked a player and the SL does not claim, then you can claim that someone at random was a shoplifter and say, hey, wait a minute, this is interesting, because they didn't claim. Maybe they saw bank robber, and it just so happens that I'm actually the bank robber. But, so yeah, vote them. But obviously this does have some risks if you have a bank robber partner, but then at that point, if you're like, say, the plant that has, that we're talking about, it also applies if you're the plant that actually did see the shoplifter and you're the only bank robber and they didn't claim. Then you can just go out and say, hey, wait a minute, shoplifter didn't claim their bank robber. But, it's just an alternate situation in which you would want to do that. And lastly, we have, skipping something here. In setups that Snoop would be interesting, they pair well with Intimidator. Snoop has enough information to back up an aggressive claim, because they know 2 bottom roles that are not used. They can use those roles and that information, as well as the knowledge of whether or not there's an X-Cop in the game, to back up the Intimidator. Because if you think about it, the Intimidator is supposed to play aggressively, and since you know that the Intimidator probably made someone useless if they're claiming aggressively, then you can actually claim the role that they claim to be, that person claims to be, and it's just like, oh, well, I'm the intimidated wild card. I'm not the intimidated wild card. Yeah, that's a meme. It goes far back. But yeah, just go wild if there's an intimidator, and you know they're existing, unless you suspect that they're not, in which case, ooh. And they pair very poorly with vanilla bank robbers, information-based robbers that get even less information than you do, And it's also a good replacement for plant in an attorney and fall guy setup, like advanced setup, because like that setup, they both depend on the fact that the plant gains information and that the attorney and fall guy are supposed to be kind of cast doubts on everyone's claim. So, like, say, if you're the Snoop, you don't get to see the attorney or the fall guy, but you do get to see 2 bottom roles. And if you see neither of them at the bottom, you have to look out for one of those roles. being a player, because you know that there's probably a player that got one of those roles. So, look out for that. And lastly, the Snoop is very fun with the wild card, because you get to know what role or what card they took. If you see your bank robber buddy at the bottom, and they have and there's a wild card, you can say, maybe the wild card took the bank robber role, in which case you have to make sure the wild card doesn't get arrested, which is an advantage that no other bank robber gets. And the last role, and probably the most interesting role that was added to Heist as of recently, is the undercover cop. They are basically the innocent fall guy. I don't know why Las Milan decided that there should be an innocent fall guy, but there's an innocent fall guy now, so whatever. It's possible to play the undercover cop like negotiator, which is what people usually do. They usually claim something like anarchist that gets information and then say, oh, nope, I wasn't actually anarchist, I'm actually undercover cop. Vote me! It doesn't matter. So, they do this to gain information, and, if the majority says, oh, well, we should just vote the undercover cop, because we don't really know, then the undercover cop can just vote for whoever they think is the bank robber, and then the innocents will win. But of course, you should never claim undercover cop as your first claim, because you're just making yourself useless. If claiming undercover cop, basically, it's asking to get arrested. And if, say, you have, if you're an undercover cop with no other robbers as players, then you just fuck the innocent team, because everyone wants to vote for the undercover cop, then just not vote at all. And despite the fact that everyone knows that voting for the undercover cop would cause the innocents to lose if there were no bank robbers, they more likely believe that the undercover cop was the bank robber than they would to believe that they weren't, I guess, bank robbers themselves. And the undercover cop is usually easy to be made absolutely useless by an ex-cop that says, oh, hey, look, I checked player 1, and they're an undercover cop. Thanks, asshole. You just made me useless. Now I just get to sit here and do nothing for the rest of the game. I might as well go get a cup of fucking coffee. Setups that include the undercover cop, probably, unless you're a masochist, shouldn't include the fall guy or attorney themselves, because you're going to make the undercover cop want to punch someone. Because no matter what, if you claim undercover cop and there's a fall guy, it's just like, well, now I don't even want to claim, I don't want to vote for the undercover cop because they could be fall guy, and all of a sudden it's just like, or, oh, hey, the fall guy is just going to claim undercover cop, and it's just like, please vote me. It's like, it's hard to do anything. It's just like, well, so the fall guy or attorney could just play like the undercover cop. It's like, this whatever. And now all of a sudden you have two undercover cop claims. One of them's the fall guy. One of them's the undercover cop. And there's probably a third guy who is the plant, and you have no idea which. Who do you vote? Neither of the undercover cops, because they're both. You can't take the chance. And now all of a sudden you have become the hostage that wants to try to get themselves arrested, which is a very, very interesting experience. But they are very good with swapping roles. If you are the undercover cop and you've been switched with someone else, you can easily just claim you are the undercover cop and you've made someone else not only confirmed, votable. Well, I think this is actually a technicality I don't know about. If the undercover comp is made to be someone else, I believe it is the person who is, at the end of the interrogation, after all of the roles have been done, is the one who is actually the new undercover comp, is the one that the buff is applied to. Although it's, don't take my word for that. Lost Blonde, if you want to leave a comment in the comment to the video saying how the role works, please do, because I actually don't know about this. But if it doesn't actually work that way, which, I mean, I can see why both ways would be like that, then, yeah. So, but they're good with swapping roles because you can confirm someone else, and you can, well, claim those swapping roles. You can claim anarchists and gain information. You can claim shoplifter and gain information. Although that is a very, very bold move. And it'd be very interesting to try to. What if you tried to claim wildcard as an undercover comp? That'd be a real one. Try to get the ex-cop to out what that role actually is, just to say, nope, I'm actually the undercover comp. Would that work? I've just now thought of this during the recording. It's very interesting. But the role can obviously be ruined by roles that check cards, especially the psychiatrist. Like, please don't go put the undercover cop and the psychiatrist in the same setup, because the undercover cop being revealed by the psychiatrist, it's just like, well, guess I'll go get a snack. Whatever, I'm useless. It's like, oh, hey, look, I'm hostage now. Yeah. And they're absolutely pointless in a setup with negotiators. Just like all of a sudden, you have 2 negotiators. Except one of them doesn't actually reveal their card. It's like undercover cop is like a less fun negotiator, because you can't reveal yourself to be the bank robber. And other roles, really, anything else, you can just have fun. Guard, you can just like claim that to gain information. Rookie, you can claim that to gain. It doesn't matter. You just have fun with it. And lastly, I want to talk about other changes that Heist has gone other than those. Well, let's start with the amazing artwork. As you can see from the gameplay video, the video that's probably playing in the background. It's like, I don't know why I wouldn't use my even more Heist footage here. Artwork's great. You can have 3 shoplifters and hostages in a custom setup. That is, who would want to do that? First of all, 3 hostages, 3 shoplifters, and 2 bank robbers is now a valid setup. Just wrap your head around that one. Veterans can now host ranked games, because Lastmon can't be asked to do it himself. Whatever. It's like, I don't mind hosting a ranked game, especially since it's the only way to unlock the even more amazing art. And as far as bugs are concerned, the ones I've encountered while I was playing is that A, the wildcard is not informed about changing alignment, Snoop is picked. I don't know if that was patched or not. B, wildcard changes 5th slot if the 6th player is wildcard instead of the 6th slot, which is a really f***ing annoying one. And C, there are some caching issues with the backs of the vanilla bank robbers. If you hit Shift F5, you can re-download all of the images, and it should fix the problem. But if you're still if the old backs of the bank robbers are still cached, then you can immediately pick out where the bank robbers are. So that's why people haven't really been playing with it, which is very interesting. And yeah, that's about it. This video was somewhat thought through, but it was also thought through at a night and an afternoon, just thinking about it for a little bit. Obviously, this is backed by a little bit of gameplay experience, but not a whole lot, since this is just me speaking through probably what is about a week experience of playing the game. Ever since I moved out, moved back home for a little bit. But yeah, I think more of the point of this video is to just encourage discussion about these new rules, so I can see what the opinions of the majority are, especially since I probably have to write the wiki pages for these soon. Probably gonna get Burrito to help me with it. Yeah, whatever. Other than that, that's it. I'll see you in the next video. I don't know when this is gonna be released. Might get released at 12 at night. Might be released at 7. I don't remember. I don't know. Depends on how long it takes to export and upload. But whatever. It might even be released the next day. I don't know. But yeah, I will talk to you guys later, and see ya.